Unexpected good and bad news, Falcons fans. Now that all of the offseason additions have been made, or at least so we think up to this point, where are the Falcons? Are they contenders or are they pretenders? That's the question we're going to answer on this episode of Falcons Today, presented by Prize Picks. Welcome in. You're hanging out with your guy, Moose. Honestly, I think this is kind of a lazy topic if you're asking me, but with content being few and far between right now, I feel like I don't have the luxury of picking and choosing what stories that I want to cover. So we're going to cover basically everything. One NFL source says, buy stock in the Falcons. And I tend to agree with that take. I'm buying high right now on Atlanta, mostly because it can't get much fucking worse than it was last year. Pardon my French. But you guys agree with it. We watched every game together. We saw the collapse from Raheem Morris, from Zach Robinson, Terry Fontenot, and that entire front office. It can't get much worse, can it? So that's why I'm thinking with a better roster, with a more competent front office, and with, honestly, just a better overall product that we're looking at, the Falcons cannot be that far off from making the playoffs. But Bleacher Report was the one that wrote this article. Now, here's what they said specifically about buying stock in the Falcons. Here's their article. The Falcons have no shortage of offensive weaponry. Brief little pin in that for a second. And led the NFC in sacks last year. But James Pearce, could face a personal conduct suspension following the offseason arrest. And quarterback remains a major question mark. Agree with that as well. The key for the Falcons is weathering the first half of the season. If they can do so without falling too far off pace, they'll be in the mix in a weak NFC South. The verdict, buy. They are a contender. So I agree with the overall messaging here, but a couple of minor points of contention. Offensive weaponry? I'm not saying the Falcons' offensive weapons are, Drake London, yes. Bijan, hell yes. But we've loaded up the floor of the offense. It's a much higher floor. I still think that there's room for growth, and I love Zachariah Branch as well. But I think what they're meaning is defensive weaponry, because this defense is the identity of the team. Don't believe me? Let's look at the weapons that we've got on the defensive side of the ball. A.J. Terrell, zone corner through and through, CB1. Avion Terrell, jam corner on the outside, going to press you off the line of scrimmage. James Pearce Jr., tremendous edge talent. Brandon Dorlus, interior pressure player. Zach Harrison, when healthy, very nice starting and rotational defensive lineman. Jalen Walker is a hybrid player. Billy Bowman, long converted safety to nickel corner. Jesse and Xavier Watts, they're clearly the best safety duo in the entire NFL. So you tell me that the Falcons' identity right now isn't defense, and I'll call you a liar if you say that, because it is 1,000% a defensive-led team that needs a better complement on the offensive side of the ball. But I will also acquiesce to another point that they made. The biggest question mark is quarterback. How does a quarterback play hold up? Because the rest of the roster has enough talent to win the division. It certainly does. But how does the quarterback affect into play here? Now, Matt Ryan was asked earlier today, and I thought this was not telling. He didn't really divulge anything crazy, but this is a little bit more of you got to read between the lines. Matt Ryan previews the Falcons quarterback battle as, I think the biggest thing is you just don't know where you're at with Michael Penix Jr. And I'll explain what I think he means right after I tell you about our sponsor today, Prize Picks. Whether you're watching basketball playoffs or you're a big baseball fan and you just want to watch the Braves continue to dominate baseball, you got to download the Prize Picks app today and win up to 2,000 times your cash while watching sports. It is the best place to win cash. It's super easy to use. It takes you 30 to 45 seconds to make a lineup. Here's what you do. You pick a couple players, their stat projections, more or less on those stat projections. Lock it in, watch your money multiply. So I gave you guys a little example. This took me 27 seconds to make on the dot. I timed myself. A 6-time multiplier to win $30. Joel Embiid, Nas Reed, and Victor Wembanyama. All you got to do is download the app today. Use code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. So Matt Ryan makes the comment and says, we're not entirely sure about Penix. We just don't know what the timeline is right now, but you would want to think that Penix has a leg up for being in the Falcons locker room, being drafted by the Falcons, but I don't think it's that simple. I don't think it's that simple anymore. The knee injury certainly put a monkey wrench in the development and the timeline of Michael Penix's leash when it comes to his time on the Dirty Birds. I think Tua's got a legitimate shot, guys. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. One, Tua's just a far more accurate quarterback than Michael Penix Jr. You can't even deny that. Penix has a stronger arm. Penix has got the more prototypical body size that you want as a quarterback, but Tua's also completed 50% of his throws over 20-plus air yards over the last 3 seasons. Now, that's pretty damn good. 20-plus air yards, 50%. That's kind of right where you want to be. And both of them, believe it or not, as crazy as it sounds with how bad the Dolphins' offensive line was last year, have had a really low sack-to-turnover ratio, and we both know that Tua, his nickname is Turn the Ball Over. So it's Mac Jones, Penix, Gardner Minshew, who I don't know if he really counts in all this, Bo Nix, and Tua. So both of these players can conservatively manage a football game without turning the ball over at key times. They've shown it in the past. They can do it. And Stefanski wants that more than anything. The style of quarterback is basketball analogy. He wants a point guard, traditional, dish the football, play on time, on pace, don't go off script, deliver it accurately into the chest of your playmakers, and let the scheme do the work. He doesn't want a Josh Allen. He doesn't want Lamar Jackson. He doesn't want Justin Herbert. And think about it, if he had those guys, they'd be a lot better. But you get my point. Like, he wants someone to fit what his scheme is. That's why he drafted Dillon Gabriel last year. Tua's a better version of Dillon. And Tua also has a lot of success throwing the ball further downfield than Michael Penix Jr. does, because Penix didn't do it last year. He had 10 total attempts of throwing the ball in between the hashes. Let's go to Tua's beyond the sticks from years 2023 to 2024, back when he was actually playing like a good quarterback. Number one in this category, 62.1% comparative to other guys like Kirk, Brock, Jared, Sam. What do all these guys have in common? Elite pocket awareness. They can play and thrive from the pocket. But this is not a shit on Michael Penix Jr. episode. You guys know how I feel about Penix. I want the best quarterback to play. So here's the Penix plan that I've identified. If you're Michael Penix Jr. or a Falcons fan that loves Michael Penix Jr., there is a 4-step plan in order to see Michael Penix take the field. First things first, you got to get healthy enough by preseason. The knee rehab is the most important part in all this. The second part of the plan is to actually play in the preseason. Thank you, Raheem, for saying, we don't need it, and then missing the playoffs for another year in a row. What is that, 9 years, 8 years now the Falcons have not made the playoffs? And then, of course, you've also got to make Tua play in the preseason as well. It would be unfair to make Penix play and not make Tua play at all. And even if it's a drive, it could be one drive for Tua and a quarter for Penix. But the most important thing, if you're Kevin Stefanski, Matt Ryan, Ian Cunningham, identify the strengths and weaknesses of both. And then determine what strengths better allow you to win football games. That's the most important thing. So, I'm going to ask you this question real quick. Are the Falcons contenders or pretenders based off everything that I just asked you? I'm going to say they're contenders. Not to win the whole thing. Don't get it twisted. We're a long shot away from that. But to win the division? Yeah, I think we can. I think we can go back to the playoffs. That's goal number one. All right, let's shift to the unexpected bad news. And this is more so not from a rumor that I've heard. This is all to do with the schedule. No, not Drake May either. This is the actual schedule, the NFL Falcons schedule. So here's what the NFL schedule release is coming up here in just a couple of weeks. Here's what we know so far. the schedule usually gets released the second week of May. Now, rumors have actually been swirling that it's getting pushed back until like the third week of May, so like May 20th. But one leading NFL analyst came out with the 2026 strength of schedule, not if schedule. That's my apologies there. I had a typo. But we thought that the Falcons' schedule would be a little bit harder. Well, it turns out that according to the over-under set by Vegas, the Falcons have like the 20th hardest schedule in the league. And here's what it looks like. Take a look. Easiest is the Lions at number 1. The hardest would be the Arizona Cardinals. Now, it does take into a lot of different factors here. What you did in the offseason, the draft, as well as the free agency class that you just brought in. Everything is all-encompassing. New scheme, new coaches, everything. And now they rank the Falcons at 20th hardest. But beforehand, we had only projected the Falcons, not me, but they did, ESPN, projected the Falcons to win 6.5 games. Now it's up to 7.5. So they clearly like some of the additions the Falcons have made this offseason. They think that the floor has certainly been elevated. But I'll remind you that there are some very tough opponents on the schedule this year. Let's just take a look really quick at that full list. At home, you're going to face off against the Panthers, the Bucs, and the Saints, and I think all three of those teams got better. I don't know that they're elite, but they definitely got better. You play the NFC North, the Bears, the Lions, the Packers, and the Vikings, all of which tough outs. And you play the Chiefs, you play the Bengals, maybe not the hardest. The San Francisco 49ers, I think they're going to get a little bit worse. But a lot of these teams are getting healthier. A lot of these teams are seeing their quarterbacks come back. Washington gets Jaden Daniels back. So I think it's important to note that while we think the Falcons got better, all the other teams in the NFL are saying the exact same thing. So I've got a little bit of pause here because let's go back and rewind the clock to 2025. What was the 2025 strength of schedule after everything was all settled and done? All the dust had settled. The Falcons ended up with the 7th easiest strength of schedule, and they went 8-9. Now we're projected the 20th easiest schedule. So maybe 7.5 is conservatively where Vegas is feeling like this is where we're kind of going to live. I personally think that 10-7 is definitely within the realm of possibilities for Atlanta, but it is certainly going to be a test year. And here's the good news. If Atlanta stinks and they have to blow it up at the quarterback position, you draft one in a loaded class next year anyway. And if one of these guys balls out, whether it's Penix or Tua, you've got a bridge. It's excellent. And this all, of course, goes back to what Matt Ryan said, saying, I think the way that both of these guys have started the offseason, I think it puts us at a good spot. All of it comes back to the quarterback. Everything bleeds back to the quarterback. So if you want nonstop Atlanta Falcons content, whether that's news, rumors, trades, signings, everything in between, watch parties when they come up here in just a couple of months, you got to do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button. We are on our way to 54,000. That's a great number. Let's try to get there as quick as possible. All right, my name is Moose. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm going to take off. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and rumors surrounding your favorite team. As always, rise up and be cool.